What is up, gamers? Staxwell's back at it again today with another market watch. A whole lot has happened since the last one. We have the Hunted release, we have the High Seas announcement, we have the Adult Volda, we have the Max Armory deck. So we're just going to ignore the fact that I haven't uploaded in nearly a month and jump straight into it here. Tectonic plating, cheapest copy on the market, is $61. Makes a lot of sense off the back of the Volda hype. It is worth noting that this is going to be competing with the Earthlore bounty for the chest slot of choice for Volda. I would lean a little bit more towards Earthlore bounty. Never been huge on tectonic plating, but it's definitely possible. And while I do think this is probably the worst of the WTR legendaries, it's definitely worth noting that they will all probably reach the Mask of Momentum level pricing at some point, right? Like even like scab skins for 31, Brave Forge bracers at like 40. I think that all of these WTR legendaries, maybe beside Mask as of lately, are still a little bit underpriced. Even Tectonic for 60, I still think is a decent pickup. You know, I'm not certain which way Valda's gonna lean. We don't have all the cards fully spoiled, so it's too hard to tell right now. But it's definitely possible, and it's shot up a bit since then. Moving on, Swarming Gloomvale down quite a bit. Cheapest copy on the market is only $15. Makes sense with Viserai so close to LL. People trying to sell out of that deck and pick up a legal hero. So it makes sense. You're going to see a lot of Runeblade cards coming down quite a bit. Swarming Gloomvale, again, $15. Great pickup. Moving on, Destructive Aethertide. Cheapest copy on the market is $20. This is just strictly off the back of Verdant's recent success. I don't know if Verdance can carry that momentum, carry that success into the new meta that it seems like we're going into. A world without Viserai, I guess you could say. Verdance, such a good hero right now, but part of that is because she does prey on Viserai. Scour is just so good. And, you know, losing that good matchup, I'm not sure if that means she's still going to be like a dominant force in the meta, or if she's going to kind of fall off a bit. Destructive Aethertide will follow her either direction, though. If she becomes unplayable again, then yeah, Destructive Aethertide will fall. Cheapest copy on the market is $20, which is totally crazy, and the cheapest rainbow foil is $40. Not the only card pumping off of Verdant's success, though. Seeds of Tomorrow, cheapest copy on the market is $22, and the cheapest rainbow foil is like $36. This one makes a lot of sense. Not only is like Verdance now a good hero, a player in the meta, Jarl also seeing a lot of success as of lately. Both of them want to play Seeds of Tomorrow kind of anyway. Just like kind of a good Earth card, period. Like it's tough to find a blue Earth that's playable, right? And even though Seeds of Tomorrow is like a 2-card 5, like it's still better than a blue 2 block, I think, most of the time. So not only like is it just a fine blue Earth card you could be playing, it's also like insanely well positioned into this meta. Being able to stop all of the Flick Knife shenanigans. This card is very, very good against both Syndra and all of the new Flick Knives assassins. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that Seeds of Tomorrow is going up. Moving on, Count Your Blessings, going up quite a bit as well. Cheapest copy on the market for like the promo yellow alt, or not alt arts, but extended art. Count Your Blessings is $11. Probably a lot to do with the Jarl success as well. Jarl, of course, was playing 6 CYBs in the Battle Hardened winning list. So it makes sense to see this stuff go up a little bit. And I do think that this is probably still cheap. Like once that blue CYB gets unbanned, I think all of this stuff will go pretty crazy again. Moving on, Hyper X3. Cheapest Hyper X3 on the market is like $22. This is, of course, off the back of the Max Armory deck. It was at like $9, something like that. And as soon as the deck got announced, it went pretty crazy. I am a Hyper X3 believer just because LSS has such a way of taking old legendaries and like making archetypes around them. So just breathing new life into some of those old legendaries. Think of like Stalagmite, or think of Flick Knives, right? Flick Knives was like a $15 card for the longest time. And all it took was one set to turn Flick Knives completely around, right? And I do think, or not that I think, I could imagine that this is the direction that they're going to want to take Max. So if you remember when the Jarl Armory deck got announced, Stalagmite was like $20 prior to the announcement, and then after the announcement, it jumped up to like 50 or 60, which everyone thought was crazy. Like, wow, that's insane. But then once the Jarl deck actually dropped, the Stalagmite jumped up to like 120, 110, 100, somewhere around there, and I think it's still sitting at like 90. So I have a feeling if Max plays this card, which I kind of think he will, but if he does, we're gonna look back at this $20 price tag and really wish we had bought some. So yeah, don't let that happen to you. Worst case scenario, you're out $20, which sucks. But how far can this drop, right? Even if it's unplayable again, it's not gonna go lower than the $9 that it was prior to the Max Armory deck. So really, you'll be losing out on like $10, which will be kind of annoying. But I think the investment is worth it. I think that the effect is good. It just never, like, you never had a reason to do it, because like Max makes hyperdrivers for free with his hero power. So it didn't really make a lot of sense to play them in your deck. Like this and Gas Up were like the only two payoffs for that strategy. So if they print a couple more, it's definitely possible that Max will lean into this type of game plan. Moving on, Luminaris Angel's Glow, just the cheapest Luminaris period on the market right now is $10, which is totally crazy. This card was like $1 for the longest time. Makes a lot of sense though. Prism has been seeing a lot of success lately, and once Viscerai is gone, I imagine Prism will probably see like even more success. But it's hard to tell that for sure, right? Maybe Viscerai leaving will introduce a lot of the slower decks, a lot of the warriors and Jarls of the world, to keep Syndra in check. And if there's a lot of Jarls and warriors and things like that, maybe Prism gets a little bit worse. Yeah, maybe like KOs and things like that could come back. Not sure, but yeah, Prism definitely doesn't want to see Guardian anymore. So yeah, it's like kind of hard to tell where Prism's going to go in the future. But yeah, this is totally a crazy price tag. I just thought it was worth bringing up. On the other hand, though, the cold foil is only $40, which at that point I feel like it's so much more worth it to get the cold than the non-foil. But yeah, the cold foil really hasn't moved in price. The non-foil gone up quite a bit. Moving on, Tectonic Rift, cheapest copy on the market is $13. Of course, on the back of Volda hype, being able to pair a Tectonic Rift with those like effects that care how much seismic surge you have, like Roiling Fissure or something like that. Yeah, could convert hands quite well, and it's a Bright Lights expansion slot card, which always goes crazy when they're good. So yeah, I could actually see this going up more if the card winds up being played. Tenacity also going up quite a bit. Check out this chart. It goes a little bit crazy. Cheapest Tenacity on the market is like $10 for the non-foil and about the same price for the rainbow foil. I think it makes sense that this is going up because everyone is like trying to kind of scramble to break Mask of the Pouncing Links. That's always how Ninja metas go. They always start on Mask of Momentum and then wind up switching to Pouncing Links, at least in the sideboard for faster games. If you're in a Syndra, they might get a mass trigger on you. But if you get a Lynx trigger on them, your Lynx trigger will be worth like 2 or 3 mass triggers most of the time, right? So if the game is only going 2 to 3 turns, it makes more sense to play Lynx. Moving on, Toxicity, the Alt Art Toxicity Battle Hardened promo. Specifically, the yellow one is only $20. Makes sense that it's going up because, like, it used to be like $5, $6. Makes sense that it's gone up because it's played an Arachne Slip Through the Cracks. It's worth noting, though, I've only really ever seen people have success with the yellow one, but the red Toxicity is like $40 on the market. So yeah, I think the yellow one's a good pickup, but the red one is definitely not. Moving on, Earthlore Bounty, cheapest Earthlore Bounty period on the market. This isn't the cold foil or anything. This is just a regular one. Is $7. Obviously, very good in Volda. Makes a lot of sense that it's going up. We've talked about this card for years now, so I don't want to hash too much in it. But fans of the channel are definitely eating good on that card. Moving on, Schism of Chaos, whatever you want to call it. Cheapest copy on the market is under $40, $38.75, which is kind of crazy. especially with all of the Fables going so buck wild right now. Nearly across the board, every Fable, except for a couple, and Sism is one of them, are just going totally crazy. I don't know if it's like Rudy hyping up the game and getting more collectors involved, or if it's like, yeah, collectors naturally coming, or if it's these Fables finding their way into competitive CC decks. Either way, I think Sism is not only competitive, but it's undervalued as well, which is like not really a combo we get a lot. If you watch any deck tech with people who have this in their deck, Arachne players and whatnot, they'll say like they'll just sing its praises. They'll say like, "Oh, I thought it was good, and then I started playing with it, and I found out it's broken." And then I watched a different deck tech where the guy was like, "This might as well say draw a card when you pitch it," and yeah, just like people just love this card. Uh, I've heard other people say that it's the like other pro players say that it's the best Fable ever printed, and if your effects are lining up in the right way, then it makes a lot of sense. This card is actually kind of insane. So for only $40, I definitely think it's worth the investment. Even if you don't wind up playing Arachne, it is just a chaos card, so it could definitely be good in the future as well in other like chaos heroes, right? Plague Hive going up quite a bit. Cheapest copy on the market is $76. This one is also played in some Arachne lists since they only need 2 resources every turn. It does not hurt them at all to play yellows. That's why they're playing the yellow Toxicity or Toxify, whatever that card's called. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense that this is going up. I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention there. Mask of Momentum, cheapest copy on the market is $120. The current way that Syndra is built, not saying that that's the only way to build her, but in the current builds, she's like kind of unplayable without Mask of Momentum. So it makes sense that it's spiking up quite a bit. The white border is around the same price as well, so don't think you're going to save any money there. If you're going to pick it up, just pick up the rainbow foil. It'll definitely be worth more in the long run. But yeah, Ninja hype is definitely there. Levels of Enlightenment and all of the Mystic cards across the board have just gone down quite a bit. Again, this is because all the heroes are very close to LL, and people are a little bit, I don't want to say afraid of them LLing because they know they're going to LL, but I guess they're just preparing for that, right? They're selling all of their Mystic cards and buying Draconic Ninja cards or whatever it is. Just the kind of natural cycles of the market. So if you have patience and you want to hold on to this stuff until we go back to Miss Vale, I think some of it is just like insanely cheap. Like Traverse the Universe is only $23. The EA Traverse is only $70. EA Levels of Enlightenment is $48. Again, the regular levels is $13. I think there's a lot of like really insanely good pickups in here. And if you have a little bit of patience, I think it's worth grabbing some of this stuff. Moving on, Supercell, cheapest copy on the market, is like nearly $10 right now. Putting Steam counters on hyperdrivers. This one leans heavily into the Nitro Mechoid package. This is just like kind of one of Max's like standout cards in the current build. I just don't know if he sticks with this. You know what I mean? Is he going to still play the Nitro Mechoid stuff, or is this entire Armory deck just gonna lean totally into wrench strategies, or are they gonna find a way to integrate the two? I'm not sure. Either way, worth mentioning that Supercell is going up quite a bit. We already talked about Traverse. Moving on, Grandeur of Valahai, cheapest copy on the market, is $175. Of course, for Valda, this is probably just an auto include in Valda. A deck that cares about Seismic Surge, like this is just no brainer. James White also did kind of sing this card's praises, said that like it's better than everyone thinks it is or something. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it's going up, as all of the Fableds kind of are. Moving on, Codex of Frailty, cheapest codex on the market, is $110 for the regular and $125 for the rainbow. If you're gonna get it, I recommend getting the rainbow, but both are insanely expensive. If you're afraid to pick it up, I kind of understand that. Like you're afraid, like, oh, maybe it'll get reprinted, or maybe these classes won't be good. I'm telling you, I've been hearing all of that since the card came out. So I think you need to just bite the bullet and get it if you don't have it and you want it. Assassin is, LSS's favorite class. They're never going to let that be bad. And Rangers will, ebb and flow in and out of the meta. But yeah, I think Codex will just always be a good competitive card. And if you're worried about like the price of a reprint, I would look at Command and Conquer. The way LSS does their reprints is like quite elegant to me. I think that yeah, I just really admire the way they do their reprints. Like look at the regular Command and Conquer. Before it got reprinted, it was like $90-ish, something like that, 90, 95. And it has since fallen to $82. So, huge reprint, one of the staple cards of the game, and it fell $10. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too afraid of a reprint. Yeah, especially if you get the foils, then you'll be even more reprint proof. So if you don't have Codex, I just highly recommend getting it. Moving on, the Alt Art Command and Conquer is $85, so it's just a little bit more expensive than the regular CNC. It is worth noting though that there is like not a lot of listings of the old or of the new Command and Conquer. There's definitely more listings of the old one. I think people are just very happy to trade their old CNCs for new ones because I think most people think that the art is cooler on the new one. And yeah, while I do tend to agree, I'm just kind of a sucker for nostalgia, so I'm definitely going to be hanging on to my old CNCs. There's just something to say about like iconic art, right? And CNC, Tunic, Sink Below, those cards are like just too iconic for me to want to switch up the art on them. So yeah, I'm still rocking the old ones. A little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, the new CNC, $85. Moving on, Master Cog. Here's one of the few Fableds on the market that haven't spiked yet, and I think this one could, right? Especially if they're leaning heavily into the Steam counter synergies with Max, which makes sense. One of the new cards spoiled, I think it's called like Tighten Down or Clamp Down, something like that, has Crank and Steam counter synergy and whatnot. So I could see them going that direction with it, and if they do, there's definitely a world in which Master Cog could be played. It's only $40 for a Fabled, which is just kind of a steal. So if you don't have it, I do recommend picking it up. Moving on, Ravenous Rabble. Cheapest copy on the market for the alternate art, extended art promo Ravenous Rabble is $200. A little bit crazy, but I always sing the praises of these old EA generic promo cards. Like even Unmovable, like I don't even think Unmovable is like a particularly good card. I don't even think I've ever played it in a deck. But when I was in Memphis, they had those Unmovable side event, like those promo side event, whatever. When you enter it, you get the Unmovable. And I did make it a point to go out and try and get 3 of the Unmovable, just because like it's just gonna have its day at some point, right? At some point, Unmovable is gonna be a good card. At some point, Ravenous Rabble is gonna be a good card. These cards are like classic and iconic for a reason, right? It's because they're good. So yeah, with Syndra's success, it makes a lot of sense that Ravenous Rabble is coming back. Moving on, Gone in a Flash. Cheapest copy is $380 for the extended art Gone in a Flash. Of course, no one is paying this. The only or the latest one that's sold is $130. That's also the most expensive that it's ever sold for. So it's $380 on here, but that might as well just say out of stock. So yeah, kind of going crazy with the Rosetta stuff. I think this is like a Acilio tax. I think a lot of people like to foil out the Acilios. Like if you look at Sigil of Brilliance Marvel, it's $200. It's kind of weird, like the lower rarity stuff in here, like Lightning Greaves or like Rainbow Foil Barkskin, Felling of the Crown. Like a lot of that stuff has fallen from Rosetta. But the higher end collector stuff is going up, right? Sigil of Brilliance, Extended Art Call to the Grave, Extended Art Gone in a Flash, Extended Art Truce. Like all of this stuff is like kind of going up where the rest of the set is going down. It should just like, this kind of is true with most sets most of the time. So this line of thinking should like plant seeds in your head about how you approach buying cards from the Hunted or how you approach buying cards from new sets in the future. And just know that these higher end collector's pieces over time tend to not only not lose value like some of the other cards like Lightning Greaves, but they tend to gain value over time. So this is like always the better investments, right? Moving on, Scarf for a Scarf. This is a fun one, the content creator promos. Cheapest copy on the market is $70. I don't think anyone should run out and try and buy these or anything. They're only legal in UPF, so it's more of a collector's card. But it's interesting to see like just all of the collector stuff, like we just talked about with Rosetta, like we're talking about now with Scar for Scar. Seeing this collector stuff go up, I think is a good sign for the overall health and longevity of Flesh and Blood. So it's kind of cool to see this kind of stuff. Moving on, the extended art breaking point is $110. This is a bundle promo from the TCG player like bundle that you could purchase back when Uprising came out. So this card's like super old, super throwback, and that bundle was not worth it in the slightest. So it's good to see people who bought it eating well on that promo finally. Cheapest copy again, like $110. Makes sense since it's a 3-of in Syndra. Moving on, Hibachi Blaster. The cheapest Hibachi Blaster Marvel is $100. Dynasty is impossible to find now. So it makes sense that a lot of this Dynasty stuff is going up. Hibachi Blaster, of course, is also just a good card in general. It's played in all of the Mechanologists now that High Octane is banned. Like Hibachi Blaster is kind of the natural direction that class is going. And ever since Max got released, it pumped yet again. Speaking of Dynasty Marvels, specifically Dynasty Marvel weapons, Sergeant Aethertide, cheapest Marvel Sergeant Aethertide is $200. Absolutely crazy. So keep this stuff in mind when you're looking at the other Dynasty Marvels. Some of them are still kind of cheap, right? Like Sandscour Greatbow. Who knows? Maybe like a new Ranger will come out that wants to play that. Or, Merciless Battle Axe, Seasoned Savior, right? We're getting a whole new Guardian pack coming up. It's possible that they could really lean into that Seasoned Savior style of strategy. So yeah, there's other stuff in Dynasty that I think is still a good deal, but Sergeant Aethertide at 200 is just totally crazy. Moving on, Felling, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but Felling is dropping a little bit. Cheapest copy on the market is $46, which is kind of weird to think about because Earth is like more present in the meta than it was even when Rosetta first came out. It's just kind of interesting. Like people just want to play the new stuff, and then after another set comes out, they drop all their old toys and want to play with the new ones, and then yeah, even if the old toys wind up becoming good where they weren't good before. Like everyone was just playing like Florian and stuff before because he was new, I think. But yeah, now they dropped all that stuff. Like I think that Felling is just one of the best cards in the game. If you don't have a playset, you like just definitely should. I think Verdance could continue to be a good deck. Jarl could be even more of a force than he is now if Syndra continues to see success. Maybe if the meta slows down a bit, people aren't as afraid of Viserai, then Florian could come in and take that rune chant stacking spot, right? You can't go too slow against a rune chant stacking format because, Viserai will just stack chants and kill you. That's kind of why Jarl's not that great right now. That's why all the warriors kind of suck right now. So it's possible that, Florian, while he isn't nearly as good as Viserai, just something has to take that spot of like keeping the meta in check from going too slow. So it's possible that even Florian like comes back in the meta and wants to start playing this card. I think this card's like just crazy cheap. I think if you don't have a playset, please do yourself a favor and get it. Moving on, Hunter's Clave. Cheapest Hunter's Clave on the market is still like nearly $50. Kind of crazy, but it was printed at a lesser rate, right? All of the expansion slot cards are. And then it was printed at an even lesser rate because you don't need 3 of it, presumably. So, yeah, it just makes sense that it's expensive. Probably should have seen that coming sooner. Kind of a little bit upset with myself that I missed the mark on this one. But yeah, cheapest copy, $50. I don't think it's going down anytime soon. It's definitely not getting reprinted anytime soon. I think maybe like the other hand, right? Because there's only like one side. What is this? The right-handed dagger, maybe? I think the left-handed dagger will probably only come out in cold foil, and it will probably be somewhere stupidly expensive, like in a judge pack or something. So yeah, don't hold your breath on this card. No one is coming to to save us on this price. I think if you're interested in playing the hero, you kind of just have to bite the bullet and pay the price tag for it. Moving on, Earthlore Bounty. We've talked about this card so many times. I think last time we did, I was begging you guys to pick it up, and it was like $18. It is now $50, over $50 for the extended art cold foil Earthlore Bounty. Everfest Majestics, man, we talk about it all the time. I'm not going to harp on that too long. Moving on, Arachne slipped through the cracks. Cheapest copy is 335. I think like of the chases, every set, it kind of feels like they still don't fully have that fleshed out yet. So they're like still experimenting with like the Giga Chase of the set, right? Sometimes they make the Giga Chase like a legendary, like they do like with the Teklovos and Mecropotent, or the Levia Redeemed or whatever. Sometimes, or last time, they made it the Rosetta Thorn, which I thought that was perfect. That was so much better than Arachne Slip Through the Cracks, because once this hero LLs, it's just like he's not gonna be good in um, LL, presumably, unless they have big plans for him in the future, which is possible. But as it stands right now, I'm a little bit disappointed with this being the chase. I kind of wish they would have done, yeah, something like a Rosetta Thorn, just like one of those super old, iconic, great Giga Busted cards. You know what I mean? That will have that like long lasting impact, right? You could buy a Rosetta Thorn and know like I'll be playing with this for years and years and years in LL. Yeah, I just don't feel that same feeling with Arachne Slip Through the Cracks. So makes sense that it's not worth as much as Rosetta Thorn. Yeah, again, cheapest copy, 335. Moving on, Flick Knives. Flick Knives is still totally crazy. Cheapest rainbow foil is 130. Cheapest cold foil is 250. Absolutely crazy. Not much to say. We already know it's because of Syndra, Arachne, all of that. Moving on, Blood Spattered Vest. This card wasn't as versatile as everyone originally thought. People thought, Iras and Arachnes and every assassin and every ninja was going to be playing this. Didn't really turn out to be true. This is really just a Syndra card. So the cold foil has dropped quite a bit as a result. Cheapest copy on the market is down to 140. Moving on, Light of Soul. Last time we talked about this card was like $70 or $80. Cheapest copy is now 125. All of the Prism stuff, just get that in your mind. Every Prism card's going up. Light of Soul is no exception. Moving on, Valiant Dynamo also going up thanks to the Fang players out there. Again, people just like to play with the new stuff, regardless if it's good or bad. That's not going to stop anyone. New heroes are always fun to explore with. And I think of the warriors, I do think Fang is probably the best one. He might not be like well positioned in the meta right now, but if any warrior is going to be good, it will probably be Fang. So it makes sense that the Valiant Dynamos are going up as a result. Trench of the Sunken Treasure, the EA is up to $185, which is kind of crazy. It's just like the guy on the arch kind of looks like a pirate, so people assume that the High Seas is going to lean into a strategy similar to or that complements the Trench of the Sunken Treasure, which I guess it's possible, and I do think it's like AB1, Block 1, Ranger card, so it's probably always going to be like at least decent. It's one of the only ways to get yourself out of Warmongers if you have an arrow in Arsenal. So like, it's not, or if you have a non-attack action in Arsenal, sorry. It's like not the worst card ever, but yeah, that level of speculation is kind of crazy to me. The cheapest rainbow foil is $37. But hey, we said the same thing about Flick Knives when we seen Syndra's art. We're like, there's no guarantee she's gonna play Flick Knives. And yeah, now it's, what I say it was, $175 or something. So yeah, keep that in mind with trends. Cheapest rainbow is $37. Just know that it's just a heavily speculative investment. All of the extended art heralds are also insanely expensive. Wartune Herald Red is up to $60. Yeah, just the whole Prism deck has just gone totally crazy. Moving on, Moonshot. This is a Majestic from Bright Lights. It does seem like, because this card was shown in the art, like in the trailer for the Max Armory deck. So I think that it's probable that they're going to at least push the Armory deck in this direction. That's not to say that's going to be like the best way to play it, but they're not showing Moonshot in the art just as a coincidence, right? I do think that if they're showing the art of Moonshot in the trailer for the Armory deck, that probably means it's included in the Armory deck as well. They're not going to show you a card that they're not going to give you. That's kind of weird to do. So I don't think that they're going to do that. But I do think they're going to include it in the deck, and it's going to kind of the armory deck's kind of going to be built around this strategy. So I don't think you should pick up the non-foils, but if you're excited for Max and you want to play him, I think the rainbows are the only ones that would be like worth picking up, I guess you could say. However, the rainbow foils cheapest copies on the market are $10 each, which is pretty expensive. So yeah, that's like my take on Moonshot there. Moving on, I wanted to touch a little bit on the gem pack stuff. This stuff is totally crazy. Like, look at some of these prices, like Calming Breeze, $20. And keep in mind, like, when I show you all these prices here, this is the non-foil prices. So Mark the Prey, $6. Endure Devotion, $14. Mark the Funnel Web, $7. Mark of Black Widow, $17. This is all the non-foil. And then if you switch it to foil, the prices go just buck wild stupid. Like Mark of the Funnel or Mark of the Black Web becomes $40. Calming Breeze, $35. Pick up the point, $21. So yeah, if you're going to armories and you're getting these gem packs, you really might have some some money in your binder that you didn't know you had. This is like more than paying for the entry most of the time. And I want to say just have patience. All this stuff will go down. But I think that we're gonna run out of gem packs here very soon. I don't know what it looks like at your guys' locals, but at all of my locals, none of my stores got enough. They all are gonna run out. You know, probably like halfway through the season. So we just don't have enough. I don't know if another shipment is coming. I don't know if there's going to be another wave of gem packs. If there is, then all of this stuff goes down. If there isn't another wave of gem packs, then it's literally that simple. All this stuff is probably going to go up. You know, once people realize the gem packs aren't going to keep coming and they run out. Yeah, these prices are crazy now, but they'll probably just go even crazier later if we don't get that second wave. That's all I got for you guys today. Bit of a long one. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button and help the algorithm help me out just a little bit. If you're going to buy anything we talked about on this Market Watch, please do so using the TCG Player description. TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Costs you absolutely nothing. Small portion of that goes to help the channel. Thanks for watching. Later, gamers.